Whoa! They recently released Rayman on modern consoles. The 30th anniversary, huh? With 5 different Raymans to play. Oh boy, count me in. Wait a minute. These are all just ports of the original. They're all practically the same game. Oh my god, what did they do to the music? No, this can't be right. Rayman has been an iconic franchise for over 30 years now. They could have included way more variety than this. If you think this game reflected Rayman, you got another thing coming. I'm going to show you what Rayman really represents and what could have been the absolute best version of a Rayman bundle to play. And as always, like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and comment below what your favorite Rayman game is. Was it Legends? It was Raving Rabbids, wasn't it? The game that started it all. I won't go too in depth here, as this game was technically in the actual anniversary bundle. But listen to the original soundtrack. I always say, a difficult game demands iconic soundtracks, because you know you're going to be hearing it a lot. The 30th anniversary butchered this one, so I still opt to play the original version. Me personally, I played the Game Boy Advance one as a kid, and we'll get to that. Graphically, it's what you expect from a PS1 game back in 1995. The graphics are still in 2D, but the environments are quite creative. Yes, you have your generic forest level, but look at how nice and unique looking Bandland is, especially that music. These levels, while hard, will almost certainly leave a lasting impression on you, the player. God, I love when games take risks like this. You're sure to forget at least one of the thousands of forest levels that you've played throughout the years. But it's easy to list all the musical instrument-themed platforming levels, because there's not a lot of them. I can't even say anything bad about the controls either. Movement is tight and deaths are often earned, at least to a degree. The game is incredibly difficult and will require a lot of practice, trial, and error. If we were simply discussing the controls, I'd give gameplay a solid 9 out of 10. But we also have to include the gameplay mechanics themselves, and that, unfortunately, sucks the cream right out of a Twinkie. Kindly explain to me why the developers thought it was prudent to make the cages a requirement to beat the game. Not complete it, beat it. You literally cannot face the final boss without finding every cage. And you're probably like, oh gee, well if it's a requirement there's only like 10 or 20 to find, right? I bet there's like 10 or 20 to find. How many? Is it 102? 6 in every level, some of which require later abilities, leaps of faith, and cryptic sequences of events before the cage will even appear, let alone get destroyed. An already difficult game crippled by a perfectionist system. We didn't even mention the bosses yet. Screw that Nintendo 3-hit formula. How about 8? 12 good? Long phases of dodging between each hit okay? You okay with that? The bosses look awesome, don't get me wrong, but man are they a pain to take down. The bosses themselves would be fine if they just reduced the required hits by, say, half. Heaven forbid you game over to one though, because the rage that will course through you will never be properly defined due to the current limitations of the English language. Now, the story isn't much, but for the first game in the series, it wasn't really aiming for like absolute cinema. It's your typical X stole our Y. If we don't get it back, the land of Z will surely perish kind of story, but it knows that and it plays it off pretty well. You'll occasionally run into Batilla the Fairy, who will grant you new abilities that will help with your platforming and assist you in locating prior cages. Other than that, she's just a cool character you sometimes bump into. So, how did the first game fare? Well, that's the issue right there. Fairness. The game looks and sounds fantastic, and the controls are tight, but the game is crippled by difficult gameplay, dragged out bosses, and ludicrous final boss requirements. Overall, I give it a 6.5 out of 10. We would obviously include it in the 30th anniversary bundle, as it's the original game. You can't just not have it in the bundle, but don't expect a walk in the park. Don't worry though, the series, in my opinion, has at least 2 10 out of 10 games, one of which will probably surprise you. There were multiple ports of this game, and we want to show you something absolutely insane. Yes, Ubisoft added Rayman for the Game Boy Color to the bundle, but I really want to show you why. Rayman for the Game Boy Color was capable of doing this. Isn't that crazy for the GBC? I would have been impressed seeing this on the Game Boy Advance, let alone the color. Obviously, the handheld ports are inferior, but when you include the convenience of portability in the late 90s, you have to wonder if the games were faithful ports or fantastic games in their own right. Well, Bradley Moist here. I'm about to tell you the honest truth, and it's time someone finally said it. The Game Boy Color version is better than the Game Boy Advance version. Yeah, that's right, and I can prove it too. Right now, we are comparing Rayman for the PS1 to Rayman Advance on screen. Pretty similar, right? Just similar enough where you want to play the original, right? And that's a fair response. Rayman 1 is just an inherently better version of Rayman Advance. So we swing back to our prior comment, the accessibility of being portable. Well, what experience are you getting while being portable? Well, you got crappier music, a smaller field of vision, bosses that are still hard as balls, and that same ludicrous completion requirements. The Game Boy Color version had to cut a lot of corners in order to be playable, so what did they cut? Well, they eliminated annoying boss fights that take forever to finish, and they streamlined the levels so they're quick to pick up and beat. Oh, what's that? You lost all your continues in Rayman Advance? That sure sucks. Guess you'll have to grind more lives or use a cheat code. In the Game Boy Color though, here's a password for every level, and continues are infinite to account for the increased difficulty. Oh, the music? Yeah, well, of course the music is inferior. It's on the GBC. And yes, I'm gonna knock some points off because of it. But if I were given a choice between GBC or GBA Rayman, I'm not giving it a second thought. And for the record, the first Rayman game I've ever played, and the one I've sunk the most hours into, with one exception, stay tuned, is Rayman Advance. If the GBC version eliminated the need for collecting those godforsaken cages, then I'd rate it even higher. Oh wait, they actually did. You can fight Mr. Dark without collecting every cage. And what's the reward for players who did? A string of difficult secret levels to challenge those who enjoyed the game enough to 100% it. Not enough people talk about this port, and it's a damn shame. Go play the original Rayman, but give the Game Boy Color version a try. It keeps Rayman's identity of challenging but fair platforming, cute storytelling, and collectathons, but it eliminates the annoying boss battles and completionist requirements. It's a solid 8 out of 10, and the second game in our 30th anniversary bundle. Ubisoft was correct in including this one, and boy, that felt weird to say. But, having said all that, we also need to comment on the sequel, Rayman 2. The game goes by multiple names depending on which console you're using, like the Great Escape, Revolution, or the DS and 3DS ports of the N64 and Dreamcast versions, respectively. We won't go in depth on every version because this will take hours, but it's important to mention this as particular versions have particular differences, specifically the PS2 version. Some players have even argued it's a new game altogether. Real quick, let's compare the N64 version to the PlayStation 1 version. Isn't it gross? Talk about a downgrade. The frame rate sucks, the audio's compressed, graphics are potatoey, the levels got shortened. It's awful! This is what people expected from handheld ports, not console ports. So, which game should you play? Everyone would likely argue the N64 version, and honestly, if that's your opinion, it's a solid opinion. I, however, implore you, if you can, to check out the Dreamcast version. Sure, the PS2 one has voice acting and amazing graphics, but the Dreamcast version, in my opinion, perfectly encapsulates what the developers were hoping you'd experience with Rayman 2. And the game itself is so fun, platforming at its finest, incredibly faithful to the original, just in a 3D environment. You got your power-ups from the last game, characters from the last game, bullshit levels from the last game, it's all there. Seriously, I was stuck on this stupid water surfing level for like 20 minutes because the game punishes you for moving left and right in this specific piranha section. You're supposed to just let Rayman coast, don't even touch the control stick, which goes against everything every player would naturally do. I'm sorry, this game's fun, but I hate this part. God! The collectathon increases with the introduction of yellow lums. There are over 1,000 to collect. Yeah, that's right, it's the Korok seeds of Rayman, on top of the cages. Luckily, the developers learned from their mistakes and made the collectibles fair to find, never too cryptic, and rewarding for players who enjoy completing video games. This game should be experienced by everyone, as in my opinion, it is the peak in 3D Rayman games. A 9 out of 10 in the Rayman world, and always a joy. Third game found. Oh, by the way, if you guys ever want us to play these games on our bi-weekly live streams, twitch.tv/supermoistboys, let us know. Not every game we cover will get streamed, so viewer suggestions definitely sway our choices. But we did stream Rayman Advance for the Game Boy Advance. So if you want to see us be absolute trash, it is on our live section on YouTube.
Oh, you know what?
We have a problem now, though. Our 30th anniversary currently has Rayman PS1, Rayman Game Boy Color, and Rayman 2 for the Dreamcast. It's pretty solid. I like it. Pretty solid. But we're missing important games here. How about the handheld version of Rayman 2? It was also for the Game Boy Color, known as Rayman Forever. Was it as impressive as the first one? It's not bad. It's kind of funny, actually. Objectively, it is a better game than its counterpart. The graphics, the music, the controls, they're all an improvement. But compared to its console version, it's gravely inferior. They reduced the yellow lums from 1,000 to 800, which is awesome. But the lum collecting now means that all lums in a stage must be easily accessible and not too cryptic. You may have an eyebrow raised at the moment, as that was what I just praised The Great Escape over when compared to the original Rayman 1, but hear me out. This change, when combined with the Game Boy Color limitations, means that levels have to be very basic, and I mean basic. The first level is drowning in its tutorial level difficulty, with the player never having to use the punch attack. This gets remedied in later levels, yes, but the overall vibe of simple levels with lots to collect permeates throughout each subsequent level. Now, don't get me wrong, for a handheld game, I certainly see the appeal of this, all the joy of collecting while on a road trip or avoiding teachers at school. But if we are to create a 30th anniversary celebration of Rayman's most iconic games, this is not a proper representation. The real representation, the most balanced Rayman 2 game in my opinion, and the first 10 out of 10 on this list, is Rayman 3 for the Game Boy Advance. Nope, not a script typo. The best version of Rayman 2 is Rayman 3 for the GBA, and if you don't believe me, pause the video, find a way to play it, and do everything you can to get to 100% completion. And when you do, you will immediately appreciate what I'm about to say. To clarify, Rayman 3 for the GBA is essentially a port of Rayman 2 with gameplay aspects of Rayman 1. Hoodlum Havoc is only really referenced through, well, the name of the game, level names, hoodlum enemies in a handful of levels, and the fact that Glowbox ate the Black Lum. Otherwise, this is a tried and true handheld port of 2, so it counts. And boy, oh boy, does it count. You get the graphical boost from GBC to GBA, and an iconic soundtrack that makes the game such a joy to just slow down and take in the environment. The cages and lums are back, but man are they clever with the layouts. In Rayman 1, you often were able to see cages tucked away in seemingly inaccessible areas. Through some form of prerequisite, whether it be collecting certain lums, getting there in a time limit, or hitting a specific checkpoint to make it appear, you can certainly eventually find a way to reach it. But in 3, with very few exceptions, there's always a way to collect it right then and there. Not only that, the game rewards you when you look up or down. Any sparkle or shimmer in the corner of your eye is put there purposefully, enticing you to go off the main path leading to something good. The level design is flawless here. And yes, I know, would you like a donut under all that glaze? But I'm serious, for the record, this is the only game I've mentioned so far that I was able to finish in one sitting. Every other game eventually reached a fatigue point, but not this one. Other than maybe the second lava race, that timer sucks. But no level was unfair. Every death was earned. 50 cages is the perfect amount to collect, especially for a handheld title. Not too much, not too little. 1,000 lums may seem high, but you'll be naturally collecting them as you play. And you are not required to collect every cage or every lum to beat the final boss. Oh, that's right, bosses. They brought the bosses back. Guess it's time for more monotonous and dragged out fights, right? Nope. Not even close. Look at those delicious hit bars. Side note, going back to health chunks instead of 1 bar is perfect for a handheld game, much better than its GBC counterpart. Anyways, these bosses are not a chore at all. Except maybe the final boss, I can't lie. Maybe I just ingested too much copium, but I swear, whenever he did his laser attack, my button press would just not go through. And the second phase can be frustrating if you play the game on low volume like I did. Yeah, I struggled for a while on this one, not knowing that the guided missiles beep and let you know when they're about to commit to their trajectory. Also, these fireballs, other than the second last phase, they will never go on the bottom of the screen, so you're safe down there. And those bombs at the end, they can be tricky, but the right side tended to be the safer side for me. This was my save file after beating the final boss. I did not go back to redo any levels, I did not use a guide, and even with multiple distractions, I was able to beat it in 4 hours. It is the pinnacle of handheld experiences, giving you enough content for a long road trip, as well as plenty of incentives to sit down and collect everything. I haven't even touched on the multiplayer minigames and the GameCube exclusive content when using your Game Boy player attachment. This game was a love letter to Rayman, and everyone should take the time to try it out. I had both Rayman Advance and Rayman 3 for my Game Boy Advance as a kid, and I can promise you, the third one earned its price tag and then some. But, and that's a big but, I have a dilemma right now. The bundle had 5 games, so naturally I want 5 games too. The issue is not that we're running out of games, because we're currently at 4 titles, but there's 2 candidates for the last slot in my opinion. Rayman 3 Hoodlum Havoc and Rayman Origins. Yes, not Legends, Origins. You can still play Legends on most modern consoles still, and it's often going on sale, so it wouldn't make sense for me to bundle it into the anniversary, but a case can be made for Origins. Graphically, Hoodlum Havoc is the nicest looking 3D Rayman out there, and you'll definitely get your money's worth with all the content. Origins, however, was the first major step back into 2D platforming, and they hit the nail on the head right out of the gate. So which one do we pick? Hoodlum Havoc certainly deserves to be there, but Origins was, in my opinion, the second 10 out of 10 Rayman game, and more people need to try it out. So here's my solution. Make Origins a secret unlockable. If all 5 games have a completed save file, you unlock Origins as a reward, much like what Mario fans were desperately hoping would happen with Mario 3D All-Stars, unlocking Mario Galaxy 2. Look at how that turned out. Imagine it, Rayman 30th anniversary with the one that started it all, Rayman for the PS1. The biggest underdog in the whole franchise, Rayman 1 for the Game Boy Color. The series staple, but with a twist, Rayman 2 for the Sega Dreamcast. The misnamed, undisputed king of the Game Boy Advance, Rayman 3. A certified GameCube classic and arguably one of the best 3D platformers for that system, Rayman 3. Hoodlum Havoc. And finally, a 10 out of 10 2D platforming experience, often overshadowed by its younger brother, Rayman Origins. Anyways, that's my opinion on the 30th anniversary Rayman and what it should have been. If you have a different opinion, leave a comment below letting me...
Hey.
Hi, Glowbox. What's up?
Hey, yeah, I couldn't help but notice that you didn't choose anything from the Raving Rabbids series.
Well, yeah, I don't really like the Game Boy...
Yeah, no, I'm not mad at you. It's just that I feel like you didn't really represent the Raving Rabbids series. It could have been a part of it.
I just don't understand why they would include it. No, because the Game Boy Advance version
is really good. And yeah, I know that you need that.
Yeah, no, I hear where you're coming from. It's just like,
but it's really
you know
fun.
what I mean? Raving Rabbids for the Game Boy Advance wasn't that great. The Wii one's a little bit better, but I really don't understand what your argument is. Like, it's not going to be a fun game for most people.
So, like, what are you going to do about it? You should do something.
What am I going to do about it? What am I going to do about it?
Thanks for watching, everybody.
We'll see you on the next one. Make sure to like, comment,
and subscribe.
What he said.